the Chicago street course, I'm looking kind of like the spotter's perspective. What is it like for the communication there between driver and spotter at that track versus maybe on the road course?
What weather are we gonna have?
Oh, I can't tell you that.
Yeah, that makes
probably gonna rain.
That makes a big difference.
Probably a flood.
Is the rain?
Okay, let's start with that. Does it really make a difference with the rain?
Yeah, just because obviously with the spray, it's most of the corners are 90-degree corners and blind, like you can't see around them, and as we've seen a couple of times, you start stacking cars in there. If the spotter's slow to get to it or can't see it, we all kind of go stacking in there because you don't see the cars wrecked.
When it rains though, I imagine for a spotter that's got to be even more challenging. Maybe that makes them even more blind.
Yeah, because
And what's that do for you?
Honestly, with the spray, you just see red blinking lights, right? Or rain lights on. It's hard to kind of see in front of you. And from the spotter's perspective, I would assume, it's not like I've stood up in any of the spotter sections, but yeah, you're just kind of looking down at spray. So it's important there to get, your best spotters are the ones that you work with consistently in the right spots. I think for every driver, sometimes it's different though, but yeah, it's very critical there.
When it comes to Chicago, I've heard that there's a couple areas where you're kind of riding blind. Like even with the spotters are located, there's 3 of them there. They still are not able to pick you up. How do you manage that as a driver?
Honestly, you can't go in tentative, right? Like whether it's the race or qualifying or a lap time just in general. So you got to trust it there, and you hope if there is something happening and the spotter doesn't say anything, you can see the flags or corner marshal, things like that. So it's the same for everybody, and you just it's part of street racing in general. It's not just Chicago.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure.
You're someone who's you're close on points, but currently not in a playoff spot. But how many winners have you been getting this year? Do you feel as though you're in a must-win situation?
I'll be completely honest with you. You guys talk about the points way more than I even look at them. The only time I ever see the points is when our social media person puts them up.
You're doing pretty good.
Yeah, it's not too bad. For me, we're in a situation where, of course, the ultimate goal you don't win a race, and at the end of the day, you're probably going to have to from the looks of it. But it's just about running better every weekend. We've or I'd say over the last few weeks, take out Mexico because we never really had an opportunity there with what happened in the race. But we got to keep finding some speed. We've lost a little bit of it, or we've just missed on it the last few weeks. So that's kind of how I look at it. The points are they take care of themselves if you run well, and if you kind of run 16th to 20th, kind of where we've been running, you're not going to make it anyway. So I don't really put any emphasis on the actual points or how far we're back. Now you get to Watkins Glen and you're like, you're 10 back, that changes how you race, or if you're 100 back, that changes how you race. But right now it's just about trying to run better.
You and McDowell are matched up for the in-season challenge. I would say it's probably the standout one, given that whoever advances is probably going to have a good shot against the last 4, given that you guys have Chicago and Sonoma coming up next. So just, how much...
Well, not if you look at my Chicago stats. If you want to be honest with that.
Fair.
My Chicago stats. I think people are probably, begging that I beat McDowell in it right now. No, it's fun. Like, it's going to be interesting. This race is unique, right? Because you can't look at that during the race because we're going to pass each other 100 times during the race if nothing happens, right, early in the race or late in the race. So it's not like you can kind of base it off of like, he's struggling or I'm struggling on speed. But yeah, I think if you ask us both and we're standing next to each other, we know that, whoever takes the other person out of the first round, it helps themselves a lot for the next couple. But with that said, there's so many great road course guys. So whoever you get matched up in the second or third round, it's not like it's going to be a kind of easy ride. So, but yeah, just it's a fun little tournament that NASCAR's put on, and I think the drivers are going to enjoy. It's just this race is you can't think about it because it's a super speedway race, so you're gonna have a lot that happens throughout this race.
Thank you.
Oh, sure, I can.
Let's say you and Allmendinger probably have the most interesting matchup in this first round of the in-season challenge, given that there's 2 road courses after.
Yeah.
You guys can probably make it both of you could probably make it push to the Final Four, but just, how much have you thought about it?
We just ran into each other out there. I mean, honestly, I wish I wasn't matched up against him here, right? Because this is a good track for him. Obviously, it's a good track for us too, super speedways. But like you said, I think that his strengths and his tracks line up with my strengths and my tracks too. So either way, one of us will make a lot of noise, I think, in the bracket. So hopefully we get through tomorrow night, and with Chicago and Sonoma after that, I feel like we have good opportunities to keep advancing, so it'll be fun.
How harsh do you think the day to night transition will be, especially if the sun stays out like it does all day tomorrow going into the state tournament?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, here in particular, you do have some visibility kind of as you come off of turn 3, and so that can be an issue. I mean, a lot of it depends on your windshield, like how dirty it is and how much stuff you already have on it. But as the track cools off and the sun actually goes down, the cars will get better handling and a little bit easier to drive and probably more racy. I would imagine it's going to be pretty slick early on with as hot as it is this weekend, but I'm looking forward to that too, just because this track has evolved a little bit over the last few years, and so it'll be interesting to see in these temperatures if it kind of takes that next step where you're out of the throttle a lot more and having to worry about handling.
You have hot races at Daytona that is drafting,
Yeah.
and sometimes at Talladega, although not as much with the way
Yeah.
they moved to April and October. Is there a different conditioning regimen for this? Does Atlanta fit into those, right? I mean, I know it's a night race, so it's
Yeah.
hot and muggy. Is it harder to drive than other, more physically demanding than other super speedway races because of the tight radiuses in the corners?
I think just more than anything is the lap's a little busier than it is at Talladega or Daytona, so I think energy-wise, you're probably exerting a little bit more energy here than you would at those places. And because the track's smaller, everything happens a little bit quicker. But as far as training goes, we know what time of year it is, right? Like, this is the hot time of year for us. Chicago is going to be no different. Even Sonoma this time of year is going to be hot. So you prepare for it all year long, and it's here, which normally works well for me for whatever reason. It seems to be a good stretch of the season with a lot of great tracks.
Big opportunity this week, but obviously next week headed to Chicago. How excited are you for that? And are you excited that maybe we can get a dry run in?
I hope so. I hope we get a dry run in. Every time I get optimistic about it, it seems like it doesn't happen. So you kind of prepare for both, prepare for the wet and for the dry, just because it has been a variable there for sure. And the last 2 years in particular, like with the conditions going from dry to wet back to dry at the end there, you're driving through mixed conditions. I think last year we had heavy rain at one point, and then we stopped the race, dried out a little bit, so it kind of had a little bit of everything. So it'd be nice to get a weekend in the dry there, but prepared for both and ready for both. And yeah, I think that when you look at these next 3 weeks, starting here in Atlanta, we know that we have a good shot at winning a race and getting in the playoffs, and we feel that pressure, and we know that this is our opportunity to shine and try to make something happen.
My Place Hotels is proud to be the official hotel partner of Frontstretch. With plush beds, in-room kitchens, and pet-friendly hotels, My Place makes for the perfect pit stop when traveling. Frontstretch fans can use promo code Frontstretch to save 10% on your stay at any of our nationwide properties. Sign up for our Stay Rewarded program to get even more savings. With My Place Hotels, don't just stay, stay rewarded.
I'm Caleb Barnes with Frontstretch.com. Come back soon for more great racing videos, and if you like us, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.